Welcome back, my dear listeners. To those of you who've been here before, thank you for returning to the dark with me. And to those who are new, welcome. You are safe here, as safe as one can be in the dark. Tonight we return to the therapy room, but this time we're in Japan. A client arrives uninvited, wearing a mask, carrying secrets stitched into her very being. And as the session unfolds, the therapist begins to realize some doors are not opened with keys. They are opened with the heart. And once opened, they cannot be closed. Settle in, listen closely, and try not to answer too quickly if she asks you, "Am I beautiful?" Tokyo winters don't storm, they hush. The snow rinses sound from the city until you can hear the building breathe. The boiler's low cough, the elevator's throat clearing, the walls releasing a small, tired sigh. I'd cleared my evening list. No clients after dark, not anymore. Not since I learned what silence can invite. But at 6:06, the elevator rode up without a button pressed. At 6:07, my receptionist texted. I didn't buzz anyone. At 6:08, she arrived. She stood in the doorway like a memory you don't trust. Long wool coat, black. Gloves, neat. Hair pinned back with 2 silver clips that caught the overhead light like fish scales. And a surgical mask. White. Too white against winter skin. "Sumimasen," she said, voice soft through cotton. "Excuse me, am I late?" I looked at my clock out of habit. I don't know for whom. There was no name in my schedule, no form filled in at reception, nothing but the clean stretch of an evening I'd intended to give back to myself. "No," I said, and I heard how easy the lie came. "Come in." She sat, hands folded, perfect symmetry. She didn't look around like first-timers do, searching for evidence this might fix them. She looked only at me, a precise, unblinking attention. "I was told you would see me," she said, "after 6. We have rules for evening sessions. The rule is, don't. But therapists are simply people who make rituals out of exceptions. Something in me, a thin place in the membrane, had been open for weeks. I blamed the season. I blamed the city's immense loneliness. "What would you like me to call you?" I asked. She tilted her head a degree. "People call me what they need to. You may call me Mika." A pause, just long enough to be a dare. "Mika is fine," I said. "What brings you tonight?" "Summoning," she said, and her gloved fingers touched the mask. "I come when called." "Someone asked you to attend therapy?" "Yes," she said, "but not with words." "Then how?" Her attention sharpened. "Have you ever opened a door with your heart, Sensei?" The honorific pinched. "This is a clinical room," I said softly. "Doors here are literal." "So certain." She glanced at the walls. "You changed the art. The mountain print used to be there." A tiny shiver rippled up my spine. She was right. I had moved it yesterday after staying late to wedge a nail into plaster because the frame felt like an eye pointing at me. I hadn't told anyone. You've been here before? I asked. She ignored the question. Your heater breathes heavier at night, she observed, like something watching, old and wheezing. I wrote hypervigilance in my notes and drew a small square beside it, a habit I have when I don't want to commit to a word. Outside, the snow gave the sirens a tired blanket. The city had never felt further away. What are you hoping we work on? I asked. She looked at my pen. Beauty, she said, and betrayal, and what people beg of mouths. Then, too casually, do you think I'm beautiful? The question was quicksilver. It slid toward the drain of something I knew and didn't. I answered like a clinician. I don't know you yet, I said. Beauty is a shorthand we use for 100 other needs. It's rarely a question. It's often a trap. Her eyes warmed. Good, she breathed, as if I'd passed a test I didn't study for. We did the shape of therapy. I asked history, she gave me fragments. A man whose jealousy didn't announce itself, it hid as concern. A city that watched without intervening. A mouth marked by someone else's handwriting. Who marked you? I asked. Everyone, she said, except the one who asked if I wanted to be more than a mouth. You speak in riddles, I said gently. Can we try clear language? She nodded, as if indulging a child. There was a husband. There was a rumour. There were scissors. My throat tightened. I watched her hands. They were small, delicate, the gloves so tidy they looked drawn. The coat sleeves hid her wrists. She did not fidget. She floated. Do you feel safe now? I asked. I feel seen, she said, which is worse. Because you might see the wrong thing. A tilt, and I had the strange impression of her leaning without moving. Tell me, Sensei, do you take clients after dark? No, I said too quickly. She almost smiled. The mask lifted barely, but you cleared your list. You left the door in your heart ajar. You said, I didn't say anything. You did, she murmured. Not with your mouth. I had been imagining visitors for weeks, not clinically, privately. After my last winter client moved away, the room learned my quiet too well. I'd catch myself glancing at the empty chair, expecting it to be occupied. I had dreamt of footsteps that paused at my door and then continued. In one dream, I sat down to write and saw my notes in someone else's handwriting, the loops too wide, the T's slashed. I think you misunderstand me, I said to her, and could hear the tremor. This is a professional space. I didn't call you. Her head tilted to the other side, a pendulum completing its swing. Do you think the heart respects your forms? You're telling me you came because what? Because I was lonely? She considered this with a genuine seriousness that frightened me more than mockery would have. No, she said. Loneliness is an invitation, but grief opens the door, and you, her gaze moved, not at me, but through me, as if the chair were glass, have been grieving the time no one gave back. I swallowed. Whose time? Yours, she said, almost tender. All the hours you listened to mouths that cut you as they spoke. You bled quietly on your own tongue. You stitched yourself with professionalism. You looked in mirrors and told yourself your mouth was intact. I think we should slow down, I managed. We are slow, she said, and her gloved hand smoothed the mask as if petting it. We are very slow. I am patient. I am patient in every city. In Osaka, I wait by school gates. In Kyoto, I stroll beside temples. In Tokyo, I take the last elevator. I have all the time your grief made. The room felt too small for its size. I realized I had written nothing for a full minute. The pen pressed a fist in the page. Who told you to come here? I asked. To me. She lowered her head, a small bow. You did, Sensei. I did not. You asked a question and didn't accept silence. She leaned, and I saw the air folded around her. You asked, what am I missing? You asked, what is the wound I never treat? You asked, what visits me when I lock the door? So I did. Do you think I'm beautiful? She asked suddenly. The question hung between us like a string pulled taut. Every instinct I had, clinical, human, superstitious, told me this was a forked road. I sidestepped. I think you want to know if I can hold both things, I said. The wound and the person, the mask and the mouth beneath. She hummed, not displeased. And do you think I'm beautiful? I think it matters more if you think you are. She laughed behind the mask, soft as shredding paper. Sensei, you are the exact shape of your training. A beat. Second test, she said, almost playfully. If I were ugly, would you still listen? Yes. And if I were beautiful, would you still be careful? Yes. And if I were both? That's most people, I said. Both. Third test, she whispered. I heard it come from too many directions at once. If I showed you something you can't unsee, would you stay? I didn't answer quickly enough. My silence made a little sound of its own. She tilted, sheathed in the coat's neat lines. You see, doors are not literal, she said. And then, like an afterthought, he used to ask me that too. Who? My husband, she said, when he believed my mouth could lie. A small involuntary flinch pulled at my cheek, like my skin remembered being touched by a cold instrument. Did it? I asked. She thought about it as if it were a real question. All mouths lie, even yours, she said. When you say we're out of time and you're not, when you say that's all for today and both of us know it isn't. I was pretty once, she said, and the words were neither boast nor plea. They were a diagnosis. People stared and called it a compliment. A man married me to own the staring. He built a shrine to a mouth he wanted to only be his. How did it change? I asked. She cocked her head, silver clips winking. Rumour says I was unfaithful, she said. Rumour says a woman like me cannot go unpunished. Rumour says a man cannot tolerate laughter he didn't cause. And you? I say a mouth is a dangerous shape, she said. It can beg, it can refuse, it can confess. It can confess again when the first confession is rejected. It can shout, it can swallow words for years and then choke. Her gloved hand grazed her mask, almost stroking it. He wanted it to be his, so he made it so large it could never belong to anyone again. The heater knocked once, twice, like a polite guest. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. She looked almost pleased. You are good at sorrow. It's a requirement, I said gently. It's your offering, she corrected. Your mouth makes small apologies to all the mouths that come here. She leaned in, curiosity genuine. What would you do if I asked you the last question and you answered wrong? What happens if I do? I asked. Her eyes softened until they seemed tender. I cut you where truth is kept. I smiled without meaning to, a little grim, a little sad. You're not allowed to threaten me, I said. House rules. She nodded, eager, like a child remembering a game's instructions. Yes, house rules. I like houses. They echo. They make the scissors sound older. I found my voice again. You came here because I opened a door, I said. What do you actually want, Mika? She blinked slowly. To be answered, she said, properly. About beauty. About betrayal, she said. About whether you will lie to live. I could have ended the session. I could have said the thing I always say, but the clock's hand had lost meaning. Time in that room felt like a long fabric with no selvage, just fray. Why me? I asked, and the question came out quieter than I meant. Why this office? You are a kind door, she said simply. And you have been biting your own mouth in your sleep. I touched my lips, startled. The skin was whole, but a ghost ache bloomed, as if some night's dream me had pressed teeth through. How do you know that? Because you kept a spare mouth for emergencies, she said, delighted to have solved a puzzle. In your notes, in your tone, in your mother's voice when you visit on Sundays, in the way you say, we're almost done, to people who are already leaving you. I'm not the patient, I said, and the line sounded brittle. That's adorable, she murmured. She sat very still. Then, in a voice both softer and closer than her body suggested, she said, Do you think I'm beautiful? I felt the chair beneath me. The practice of years stood up inside me like spine when your courage fails. Reflect the need validate, do not collude, do not harm. I think, I said carefully, you have been made to believe your worth lives where people can break it. I think someone taught you to be a mirror for his cruelty. And do you think I'm beautiful? She repeated, as if want and wound shared a stem, and she had plucked it to smell the blossom. I took a breath. The room smelled faintly of old heat and paper dust, and something else I couldn't place. Sweet, medicinal, the memory of a hospital corridor. I don't want to answer in the way that hurts you, I said. She clapped, delighted. So you know the story, she sang. What an honest mouth you have. I know a story, I said, which is not the same as knowing you. She nodded, almost solemn. And yet, another microtilt, the pendulum coming to rest. Do you think I'm beautiful? I could have said what the old whispers recommend. So, to confuse fate. I could have bent the ritual, offered my starched therapist language as incense. Beauty is subjective. I declined to collude with the binary, but something in me had grown tired of small clevernesses. I think you are terrifying, I said finally, and I think you were made so by someone who hated your refusal to be owned. I think you are not less beautiful because of what he did. I think you have been made to bear a punisher's definition of beauty. I think you have been recruited into it, too, to punish back. My voice steadied out of its own fear. And I think my answer matters less than whether I can survive the cost of giving it. Her eyes did something I had not seen them do. They moistened. The room held us like a bowl. After a moment, she spoke with a softness that felt human. So, you would answer honestly, even if it hurt you. Isn't that what you asked for? I said. Her gloved finger rose to the edge of the mask. Then, try again, Sensei. Not the story, not the training. She tilted her head, those silver clips like small moons. Just your mouth. The heater chose that moment to still. The room's sound went thin as winter. Do you think I'm beautiful? I looked at the woman I could not name without conjuring her more completely. I looked at the client who was not a client, the consequence that dressed like a request, and my mouth, the one I used to soothe and tame and professionally frame, stood aside. The other mouth, the one that had spoken the door open, answered. Yes, I whispered. Even now. The room did not move. The light did. She didn't rip it away. She unfolded it, ritual clean. One loop, then the other. The mask descended like a surrender flag and became a white shape in her lap, a ghost sleeping. Her mouth was not a mouth. It was a wound made to mimic a smile, cut from corner to corner, healed and unhealed, a red seam resutured and reopened 1,000 times by the eyes that looked at it. It was precise, almost surgical, the work of a hand that needed her to speak through humiliation for the rest of her life. I did not look away. My stomach lurched, a body's honest recoil, but I did not look away. "Even now?" she asked. "Even now," I said, and the sentence felt less like courage than surrender to the strange truth of it. Her eyes searched mine as if for sarcasm or pity. Finding neither, they relaxed. Not relief, not gratitude, something colder. "Then you are mine," she said. I didn't see her hand move. The sound came from everywhere because I was listening for it only somewhere. A gleam crossed a shadow, or a shadow crossed a gleam. I couldn't tell. The room leaned. "House rules," I said, and it came out smaller than I wanted. "No threats." "No threats," she agreed sweetly, and her voice had the lilt of a lullaby sung in an empty nursery. "Just consequences." She stood without unfolding her legs. I hadn't seen anyone move like that. The motion was a rising rather than a standing, as if the air lifted her by the ribs. She came to the boundary rugs without crossing them. Her nearness slowed my heart and sped it. "Why me?" I asked again, and this time I heard the child in it. "Because you do not lie until you must," she said. "Because your mouth is tired of good behavior." She leaned in, and a perfume reached me, faintly sweet like peonies in a hospital gift shop. "Do you want me to fix you?" she asked. "I'm not..." I began and stopped. "Yes." She smiled then, not with the wound, with her eyes. It was worse. "I won't," she said. "I don't fix. I make true. If you say yes, I punish desire confessed. People say there is a way out. Say so. Say some nights yes, some nights no. Candy, gum, sweets, things to occupy my mouth, so that I don't occupy theirs." She tilted again. "But it is not your mouth I want." "What then?" My voice sounded scraped. "Your profession," she said, delighted with the accuracy of the word. "You make promises with your mouth, and then keep them with your time. You told me even now, so you will keep me, Sensei." "I don't keep," I faltered. "Yes," she said gently. "You do. You keep everyone who asks to be believed." She placed something on my desk so lightly I didn't hear it land. I looked. It was a pen, broken neatly into 2 halves. "I didn't..." I began. "You won't need it," she said. "You don't need to write me to keep me." "Tell me your name," I said, because suddenly I thought, if I name her, I will reduce her to a folklore, and if she is a folklore, she will leave because she belongs to story, not to me. She thought about it, enjoying the game. They ask me questions about their worth until I have to answer violently. A fond little sigh. In English, they call me urban legend. In Japanese, they call me cautionary tale. In men's eyes, they call me a proof. She stepped closer. And in your mouth, she whispered, I will be called client. I felt the first sting before I knew where it landed. A seam inside my cheek, the smallest nick, like the first letter of a long name. Not bleeding, not yet, but a promise of it. I touched my face, whole outwardly. What did you... She lifted a gloved finger to where her lips would have closed if they could. Shh. I do not need to mark you where others will see, she said. I only need to widen the place where truth escapes. I tried to swallow and tasted the iron of almost. The heater clicked back on, and the room resumed its borrowed life. Outside, a car stuttered over ice. A woman laughed too brightly for winter. The world had the gall to continue. Will you hurt me? I asked, and hated the child in it again. I never hurt first, she said. I ask, they answer. Her eyes held me like a pin holds a moth. Do you think I'm beautiful? My mouth throbbed. The room felt like a question with no punctuation. Yes, I said, because I had already said it, and I am the sort who cannot bear to contradict herself in a single evening. Even now, she murmured. Even now, I nodded. She took a step back. The scissors did not flash, the light did. And then she did something that undid me more than injury. She bowed, perfectly polite, as if leaving a consultation that had gone well. Arigato, she said. You have been professional. She turned toward the door, then paused. Her head meant to tilt to the left, and then suddenly changed its mind and tilted to the right. I forgot your payment, Sensei, she said. It's an exchange, you know. I keep my end, you keep yours. What do you want? I asked. She seemed actually surprised I didn't know. Your evening, she said simply. And the one after that, and all the evenings in which you think of locking the door and then don't. The mask rose again like moonlight and settled into place. The white became a wall between us. Somehow it was worse. And if I don't agree? I asked. You agreed, she said. When you said, even now. She left at 6:44, though the session had lasted longer than an hour. The elevator descended and did not return. My receptionist sent another message. I didn't answer. I sat a long time with a pen that could write no notes and a mouth that did not bleed but felt widened. When I locked the office, the key resisted, as if the door had learned too much to close. In the glass, my reflection's mouth looked ordinary. That almost made it worse. Ordinary mouths can hide the longest knives. At home, I tried not to speak. Words sprang leaks. Truths I could have folded into clinical language slid out, naked and shivering. I called my mother and told her I missed her in the wrong voice. I messaged a friend I'd been neglecting and didn't excuse myself correctly. I deleted nothing. That night, I dreamed of hinges. In the dream, each hinge was a small mouth. Some clenched, some sang. One of them was mine. In the morning, I went back to the office early, as if arriving before the city could decide me. The mountain prince stared from the opposite wall. The heater breathed like an old animal deciding to live. I set 2 chairs at proper distance and laid a fresh box of tissues between them like a white flag. At 6:03 that evening, the elevator rose. I did not check my schedule. The door opened before I could reach it. A client stood there, ordinary, human, shivering in the same way snow does when it has to choose between falling and holding. "Excuse me," they said. "Am I late?" I saw behind their eyes the shape of a question that hadn't formed yet, a mouth wanting permission to ask what would bind us both. "Not at all," I said. "Come in." They sat, folded hands, practiced courage. I took up a new pen. I felt the nick inside my cheek, a soft reminder, tell the truth even when it cuts. The city was very quiet, as if generous. We began, and somewhere under the floor, or above the ceiling, or inside the walls, something small and bright opened and closed with the softest snick, 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 keeping time, keeping me. They say she asks if she is beautiful. What they forget to tell you is, she teaches you to answer. And after that, your mouth is never only yours again. Thank you, dear listener, for staying until the end. Whether this is your first time here, or you've walked these halls with me before, you are a part of this circle now. New and old, welcome, and thank you. Not every story wants to scare you. Some want to be remembered, and some, like this one, want to be believed. Until we meet again in the dark, keep your doors closed, your mirrors covered, and your answers guarded.
And it haunts me somewhere much deeper.